with Heather Lennox, a partner at Jones & Day. And Heather, you are very much involved with the Detroit restructuring and bankruptcy. Tell us about your role in that.
Sure. My firm is a global law firm, and we have a very large restructuring practice. And so we were the lead restructuring counsel for the city of Detroit.
So obviously the Detroit restructuring was huge. It's one of the largest municipal bankruptcies ever.
In history.
But what are the takeaways, even for smaller municipalities?
So I think some of the problems that Detroit encountered over the years, some of it were endemic to Detroit, but some things that I think are universal to most municipalities and frankly even states are that I don't think municipalities in this country have a really good handle on their true cash flow and their true revenues. And I think it's vital for them to look beyond a year out, 2 years out, really understand where their cash is coming in from, where it's going out to, and then project that down 5, 10, 15 years so they understand that if there are problems looming in the future, for example, because of increasing healthcare costs or increasing pension costs, they can take actions beforehand to try to deal with that before it becomes a major problem. Related to that is I don't think municipalities have a really good handle on their legacy costs, on their pension costs, on their retiree health care costs, and those are usually the biggest liabilities for any state or local government. And again, getting really accurate and conservative estimates of those things will help avoid crises in the future when enormous cash payments need to be made and there's just no cash. So other city services suffer.
Do they not have the information, or they just choose not to look at it?
I think that a lot of, because most of the budgeting processes for municipalities is a year or two out, so I don't think many look beyond that. If they have a defined benefit pension plan, they are required to have actuarial projections, but your actuarial projections are only as good as your actuarial assumptions. And I think certainly in the field of municipal accounting, if we learned anything in Detroit, is that those assumptions were way too rosy. And unfortunately, those are the assumptions that are being used across most of this country. So I think people need to get real. I mean, you shouldn't be assuming you're going to get an 8% return on investment into the future when historically, when you combine the averages, you've been getting 5. But that's the kind of thing that's going on. And it certainly helps with their cash outlays in the near term, but it's sort of kicking the can down the road on a problem. And then healthcare is very difficult to project, but the costs have been going up exponentially. And frankly, retiree healthcare was our largest single cost in the case of Detroit, so they really need to get a long-term handle on that.
And the takeaway for bondholders?
Bondholders really need to understand that everybody always assumed that municipal debt was the safest investment ever. And as long as you have a well-run, performing municipality, maybe that's the case. But between their documents and the language that you have in some of the state statutes, I think they found that they perhaps weren't as protected as they thought they were when a municipality gets into trouble. So I think the players in the bond market that we saw in the Detroit case are really going to start reassessing their terms, their documents, their state statutes. I know that there's a group of them out there that are working on some legislation to try to fix the holes that they found when we started digging into things in Detroit.
And I imagine too there's the realization that even though the municipality has the ability to raise taxes at a certain point, they can't, only because the municipality can't.
It's functionally impossible. You can raise them all they want, but if people don't pay them, there's no point in raising them. And you also, in some cases, deal with, and we had this in Detroit, they had already raised taxes to the absolute limit that's permitted under state law. So they were the highest they could be under state law. The collection rate was horrible because the demographics of Detroit didn't allow people to pay that kind of taxation. And so taxation is not a solution to this in the long term.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for your insights. We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.